On the attack now, Corri Zoli is an assistant professor at Syracuse University specializing in national security and counterterrorism. And when things like this happen, you're usually sitting in that chair. Thanks for coming in on a Friday afternoon. This seems low level. It doesn't seem spectacular enough for ISIS. Do you think there's a possibility that it was not?
Well, it didn't detonate, so it actually could have been a lot worse. 29 people were injured in the London subway. It's significant in the sense that we're going back to bombs now, right? They're targeting trains and subways. Remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago where I said ISIS and Al-Qaeda were both announcing that they're going to start targeting trains now, and here we are. There was also an attack at a metro station in France today as well. So it's not a good sign that they're going back to IEDs and bombs. These are kind of military weapons of warfare.
It's almost a sick question to ask, but it's kind of on my mind. The fact that nobody's dead, it is certainly a good thing, but will that drive them more crazy? And is that possibly why Britain raised the terror threat level, saying another attack could happen momentarily? I mean, is that the thinking, or is the thinking something else?
I think the thinking is that obviously if they could penetrate the trains this way, Britain's not quite doing the right thing yet. They only have about 700 military or police in the train system. Contrast that with 10,000 service members and police on the streets in Paris. So, Operation Sentinel. So I think Britain still hasn't quite gotten its act together in terms of law enforcement on this one. I mean, when they announce that they're going to target trains, believe them. You know, it's sort of, they're a chatty group like we've talked about before. These terrorist organizations tell you what their military strategy is.
They like telegraph it and say, okay, and then you're not prepared for us, and then it happens.
Right, so just believe them and try to get a little bit better prepared.
Is there a school of thought that says less sophisticated? Let's go back to our roots, so to speak, because they were getting very, very spectacular, especially with the vehicles ramming crowds and things like that. That's why this, I think, to some people who don't follow it as closely as you do, seemed odd.
Seems really low tech. Well, they've lost their base of operations in Syria and Iraq and the Levant, right? So now they really have to rely solely on these foreign recruits, right? People in cities and elsewhere. So it's a little bit more difficult for them now.
Let's hope it becomes even more difficult for them.
That would be good.
What do you make of the president's response today?
To Korea? To North Korea?
No, to this, where he seems he's taking heat from some people who say he keeps giving away some information that maybe the other foreign authorities are saying, oh my gosh, we just wish you'd shh a little bit on this while we work on it. Well,
the Prime Minister May was irked, it sounded like, from his comments. But the reality is that with the Five Eyes intelligence sharing, we already know more about this attack than the public knows.
Sure.
So he's responding to something that he knows about from that intelligence sharing.
And maybe signaling to his counterpart in the UK, get it together?
Maybe. That's probably not a bad interpretation.
Corri Zoli at Syracuse University, thanks for coming in on a Friday. Appreciate it. There is new information coming in on this.